Faking Love with the Billionaire Enemy. Chapter 3. An Unexpected Engagement. I took a deep breath and plopped myself down on my bed again. It had been 2 days of misery, and I was tired. I hated Marcus. The thought of being around him made my skin crawl, but having to be engaged to him? That was misery on a whole new level. Looking at him brought back memories I never wanted to remember. Being around him cost me so much already, and I wasn't willing to give up more. Henning had been super supportive. He had told me that I didn't need to go through with it if all it would bring me was misery, and that Dad would understand. I couldn't understand why Dad would even ask me to do something like this. He knew I never had any plans of getting married. What was the point of all this? But on the other hand, Marcus's proposition seemed very tempting now that my job was on the line, and it was killing me slowly. I had dedicated a chunk of my life to making a name for myself in this industry, and letting it all go down the drain because my boss was a coward doesn't sit right with me. I got out of bed and began to unpack my suitcases once more. When I was done, I took a shower to wash all the grime off. When I was done, I took a moment to look at myself in the mirror, then made my decision. I got dressed in some comfy clothes and walked down the stairs. I needed to get something to eat. Henning and Marcus were seated in the living room, discussing work. I greeted them and went to the kitchen to fix myself a plate of food. As I sat at the dining table eating my food, I went through my emails once more to make sure I wasn't getting ahead of myself. There was still no email or call from the office. I put down the phone and decided to savor my meal. I was done being upset. I went back upstairs when I was done. I had decided to speak with Marcus whenever his conversation with Henning was over. In the meantime, I calmly rearranged my room. It made sense to do that since I would be here longer than I anticipated, so I might as well make myself comfortable. By the time I was done, I was wasted. I splayed myself all over the bed and drifted off to sleep. A knock on the door brought me back from dreamland. The knock intensified when I didn't answer the first time. "Come in," I said. "Zoe, you okay?" Henning asked. "Well, I was finally getting some well-deserved sleep when you interrupted me," I replied, rubbing my eyes with the back of my palm. "My bad. I'm sorry, I just wanted to check on you." "It's all right." "Oh wow, someone's room got a makeover," Henning observed. "Yeah, I decided to make myself comfortable since I would be spending a bit more time here." "Is that so? I thought you said you were leaving tomorrow," Henning asked. "I changed my mind. I've decided to fulfill Dad's last wish," I answered. "Really?" Henning asked, stunned. "Yeah, I know. Though I need to set some rules with Marcus. This must be on my terms," I commanded. "Atta girl," Henning replied, a proud smile forming on his face. "Whatever," I chuckled. "Might as well get to it right away," I said, stretching myself and getting up from the bed. "Where is he?" I asked. "In the living room." "Go easy on him, Tiger," Henning responded. "So, you've made your decision?" Marcus asked, watching me intently as I approached the living room. "I have. That is why I'm here," I responded, sitting on the nearest sofa. "So, get on with it," he commanded. "To begin with, you are not allowed to speak to me in this manner. If we're going to be engaged, you gotta be nice and respectful to me. Also, nothing I am uncomfortable with. No weird parties or random events where I must pretend like you're the best thing since chocolate, unless necessary. If ever there is a reason for us to be out in public together, I have to be well informed of the situation beforehand to avoid any mishaps. And finally, I need a change of clothes. Like a proper wardrobe change. All my clothes are at home, plus I need to look the part." "These are your rules?" Marcus asked, bursting into laughter. "Do you think I'm some type of animal that'll drag you along with me without a second thought?" "Better safe than sorry, Marcus. I'd rather not take my chances. Also, is there anyone in your life who would need an explanation about what is going on?" I asked, folding my feet onto the couch. His countenance became dark once the question reached his ears, and I figured I had made a mistake. My son. The only person that deserves an explanation is my son, he replied, rubbing his temple. You have a son, Marcus? I asked, horrified. Yes, Zoya, I do, he replied calmly. What? When was I going to be told about that? I exclaimed. My personal life has never been of any interest to you. I don't see why you're so surprised, he continued. This is a whole-ass human, Marcus, a whole-ass child. How old is he? I asked. He's 7. Oh my goodness. He's 7? Marcus chuckled. Zoya, I have a life outside of you hating me. You have no idea who I am. This proves it. I have a 7-year-old son, his name is Caleb, and honestly, he's the only one in my life who deserves an explanation. Oh my God. I can't wrap my head around this. How did I not know about him, Marcus? I have every reason to ignore everything that concerns you, but him? He didn't do anything to me. I sighed. Don't fret, you'll get to meet him soon. Although, you'll have to act better than this to make him believe we're together, Marcus answered. What do you mean? I asked, curious. I used to be married, Zoya. Caleb didn't just fall out of the sky, though it would have been more convenient if he did. He had a mother who claimed we were in love, but cheated on me with someone I called my friend. Unfortunately, Caleb walked in on them making out one day and well. Oh no. Poor kid, I gasped. Exactly. So he's big on trust. He's now extremely critical of the people who choose to get close. And for a 7-year-old, I wish he didn't have to live with the trauma his mother caused him, Marcus replied, sighing softly. I leaned back into the sofa and held my face in my palm. This was going to take a lot more than I anticipated. We'll need to go all out then, I finally replied. What do you mean? Marcus asked, turning to look at me. We need to leave no room for doubt in his mind. We must come up with an elaborate, believable love backstory. And in addition, you must plan the perfect engagement dinner or anything you can come up with. I can't just pop out saying we're engaged when there are no pictures or anything that can convince him. No one else is important besides, who cares if we're engaged? The only one that could be affected is him. We at least owe him a believable lie, I said. I see what you mean. Good. At least we're on the same page, I replied. We'll have to get to work as soon as possible. I need to get all this over with so I can get my life back. The sooner we begin, the sooner I can go back to my life, I replied. Of course that's the plan, Marcus replied. Let's shake on it, I said, stretching my hand out for a handshake. To being engaged. To being engaged. Zoya. I walked into a room full of rose petals with the soft sound of violins playing in the background. There were dimly lit candles creating a straight path to where Marcus knelt. Marcus knelt at the center of the room, watching me intently as I walked in slowly. When I got close enough to him, he began a small speech, talking about how his love for me would never end and didn't need to be comprehended by anyone else but us. He was so good, it was almost comical. We were here for a show, and a show we would give them. Will you do me the honor of spending the rest of your life loving me as I do you? Marcus asked, his gaze soft and piercing. Yes. Yes, I will, I replied, beginning to cry. He slid the ring onto my finger and stood up, pulled me in for a hug and a passionate kiss. From the corner of my eye, I could see the photographer angling, trying to capture each moment. It was perfect.